If you've been scrolling through endless office chair lists, reading specs that all sound the same, and still feel like you might end up with something that looks good on paper but doesn't actually help you sit through a 10-hour Zoom marathon, this review is going to clear that up. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks swapping my old mesh chair for a Steelcase Gesture, testing it in a home office setup, a small co-working space, and even a cramped kitchen table where I sometimes eat lunch while working. What I learned isn't about glossy marketing copy, it's about how the chair behaves when you actually sit in it for a full workday, and whether the price tag truly matches the value you get. First off, the biggest hesitation most people have is the fear of overpaying for a brand name that promises ergonomic magic but ends up being a fancy seat that you can't adjust enough for your own body. The Gesture tries to solve that by offering a range of adjustments that go beyond the usual height and tilt. The seat depth slides forward and back, the arms pivot in multiple axes, and the backrest moves in sync with the seat so that when you lean forward, the lumbar support follows you. In practice, that means if you're someone who alternates between typing, sketching on a tablet, and then leaning back to read a document, the chair adapts without you having to readjust every few minutes. I set the seat depth so that my knees were at a 90-degree angle, and the back support naturally filled the curve of my lower spine the moment I reclined for a quick break. The synchronization isn't just a marketing buzzword, it actually reduces the need to constantly fiddle with lumbar knobs. Now, let's talk about the daily grind. I spent a typical workday about 9 hours in front of a dual monitor setup, switching between video calls and spreadsheet marathons. The Gesture's fully adjustable arms were a lifesaver because I could pull them tighter when I was typing, then swing them outward when I needed room for my mouse and notebook. The arms also tilt inward slightly, which is a subtle but helpful feature if you have a narrower desk. They don't clash with your keyboard like some rigid arm designs do. The wheels are designed for carpet, and in my case, they glided smoothly over the low-pile rug in my office without scratching the floor. When I moved the chair onto a hardwood floor in my kitchen, I did notice a little resistance, but it was still manageable. Just be aware you might want a thin rug or a floor protector if you plan to roll the chair across hard surfaces frequently. Durability is another area where the Gesture really shows its worth. The frame is a sturdy steel construction, and the seat and back are upholstered in Steelcase Cogent Connect Fabric, a 100% polyester blend that feels soft to the touch yet doesn't sag after hours of use. I didn't have to worry about the fabric catching on my elbows or the seams fraying after a few weeks, which is something I've seen with cheaper office chairs that look fine initially but start to look worn after a month or two. The manufacturer backs the chair with a 12-year warranty, which signals confidence in the build quality. For someone who plans to keep the chair for a few years, that warranty can actually save you money in the long run compared to a lower-priced model that might need replacement in a couple of years. So, who should actually consider the Gesture? If you're a remote professional who spends 6 or more hours a day at a desk, especially if you have a variety of tasks typing, drawing, reading, or even occasional standing desk transitions, this chair's range of adjustments can reduce the small aches that accumulate over weeks. It's also a solid choice for people who have already tried basic ergonomic chairs and still feel something is missing. The fact that the seat and back move together is a particular advantage for those who like to shift posture often. It eliminates the pinch you sometimes feel when the backrest stays static while you lean forward. On the other hand, if you're on a tight budget, the Gesture may feel like an over-engineered piece of furniture. The price point is definitely higher than a typical office chair from a big box store, and you'll have to assemble it yourself. Though the instructions are clear, it still takes an hour or so for a first-time builder. If you only need a chair for a few hours a week, or you work in a hot desking environment where you won't be the primary user, a simpler, less adjustable chair could make more sense. Also, if you have a very small home office with limited floor space, the Gesture's relatively deep seat and wide arm width might feel cramped compared to a slimmer, minimalist chair. One practical trade-off I noticed is the weight. Because of the sturdy frame and dense padding, the chair is heavier than many budget alternatives. Moving it between rooms isn't impossible, but